And let me just make sure. Yep, we are live on Discord. So let me just hit the go live button. And now we are for real on Discord on our Facebook group. Welcome, everybody. This is RPG Alliance 2023. I'm Vicky, one of the organizers, and I'm joined by our friend Ray. And Ray, actually, I'm going to let you do all the self introduction because he, I don't know how you want to identify or any of that sort of stuff. But I'm Vicky. I'm she, her. I'll hand it off to you.
Hey, nice. Okay. I'm Ray. Abby Jabba, that's my surname. I'm she, they. And yeah, I'm a UK, if you can't tell by my accent, academic, studying the wonderful world of queer joy, and everything to do with queer joy. And I'm recently looking into queer joy in games, specifically tabletop games. Hence the talk today, which is going to be on basically Call of Cthulhu, if I'm honest. Yeah. Yeah, basically about Call of Cthulhu, and then if I have time, some other games that I've kind of come across. Um, yeah. So I can give a little intro on queer joy to start it
Yes.
off, if you
What
like.
is queer joy? Holy smokes.
Yes, exactly. What is it? Right, I'll share my screen because pictures would be helpful. Ah, okay. So that's me.
Okay, let me just
That's
get
my.
the stream going. Let's go. There you go.
Woo!
That's very nice, fun
Okay.
graphics.
Thank you. I tried to go with the Call of Cthulhu kind of theme. Uh, so, Gay to Play, Cruising Dystopia and Queer Joy in Games is what my project is called at the moment. And there's
Okay,
my
let
little,
me let me just
that's
get
my
the
Cthulhu
stream
little
going.
character.
Let's go.
We're talking about queer joy. So, queer what now? Uh, so, I like to start it off with this paragraph. Um, when was the last time you saw a joyful queer on TV? Or for that matter, a queer character that actually lasted for a few episodes and didn't die? Can't remember? Don't worry, I've got you covered.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so this session is, yeah, great, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Because I sit there for 10 minutes. I'm like, wait, can I name one? Can I name one? This social pop up today is all about queer joy, and a few ways I've seen this pop up in tabletop games. But of course, what I talk about is only my viewing of what I've seen of queer joy. Queer joy could be anything. It is up to the individual queer person what their joy is. So I encourage people, anyone watching, to kind of think of what their queer joy is, and don't just take my example as like gospel, you know, because it's different for different people. So what is queer joy? Um, so um, Queer joy is my life, basically. Um, it's what I do. It's currently what I study, and it's at the heart of this ongoing research project that I'm doing. And it comes from this beautiful movement called Queer Joy, which is all about celebrating queer people experiencing joy and reminding us of our capacity for joy. It is embedded deeply within the works of Audre Lorde. Whoop whoop, Audre Lorde, incredible woman. She calls herself a warrior lesbian mother, which I think is so freaking cool.
Oh, awesome.
If I ever
Awesome.
get to, right? If I ever get to call myself a warrior, like I'm going to, that's so rad. I want that on like a gravestone somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and it's also inspired a lot by Toy Derricott, who's this amazing black poet. She wrote a whole poem called For Telly, which is the name of her fish. So she wrote a whole poem to her fish, and that's her queer joy, which I think is so
I
cool.
love it.
What's queerer than, you know,
I'm
writing
gonna
a
write
poem
one
to your
about my
pet?
beautiful pussycat, Debbie.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I think I'm gonna go sing my cat a serenade after this. I think he'll appreciate it. Um, and basically, so Audre Lorde and Toy Derricott started a movement called Black Joy,
Mm-hmm.
which integrates a lot with queer joy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And their whole point is that joy is an act of resistance, and choosing to have joy is an act of resistance. And working from a point of joy and showing it can actually be really healing as well. And it reminds us that we don't just survive, we thrive. We are fun, happy, go lucky, joyful people, and we deserve happiness, and we can have happiness. It's pretty much it. And it's I've seen a few ways like games can create spaces for us to revel in that feeling. Um, and like I said before, I want to preface this with the idea that there is no right way to feel queer joy. It's purely up to you and the individual watching, like what you experience as joy. It could be anything. What you experience as joy. It could be as simple as having a nice cup of tea. Um, that's a very British example, but
Yes, yes.
that could be it. What's a more like Canadian example then, rather than
Um,
tea?
Eating bacon and having pancakes with maple syrup.
Ah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm food orientated. Look at me. But yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean Canadian. I guess playing hockey. I suppose I'm not
Ah.
really into that myself. But yeah, yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of forms of
Yeah,
joy, right? I think that's the point.
exactly. Yeah.
And that joy
Yeah,
is
yeah, and it
kind of a
doesn't.
fundamental survival mechanism too,
Yes.
especially when you're
Yeah,
dealing with
completely
mental
that.
health.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. It's the idea of like, yeah, having joy and celebrating your joy is kind of healing in a way. It kind of gives you a space of comfort to like give yourself a space to kind of like exist and just like breathe and be okay. Um, and I'm sure everyone knows who Audrey Lorde is, but I am gonna talk a little bit about her
Oh, please
because
do.
she's awesome. How can I not? So she was, as she said herself, a black feminist, lesbian, mother, warrior, and she was also a poet. And then Toy Derricott, as I said before, is also a poet. And I think it's amazing this idea of joy coming from poets and poetry, because for me, poetry is so joyful. I love it so much, and songs and things. I'm that sappy. I love it.
Yeah.
So the idea of joy coming from poetry just makes sense to me. Um, and Lord, particularly, is extremely important because not only is she a poet, but she used to do a lot of academic work around emotions and how emotions are genuine paths to knowledge and there are feminine power in having emotions, and how powerful emotions can be, and that they're not weak, they're actually revolutionary. And I think that's a pretty incredible thing to celebrate and talk about. And Lord actually once said about joy that self connection shared is a measure of the joy which I know myself to be capable of feeling, a reminder of my capacity for feeling. And that deep and irreplaceable knowledge of my capacity for joy comes to demand from all of my life that it can be lived within the knowledge that such satisfaction is possible. So, just as she says, it's the whole point in joy is a reminder that you can have it and that you deserve it and
Mm,
that it's accessible. And no matter what like society says and tries to tear you down with,
exactly.
you can still be happy. So it's that kind of like healing thing of, I can still find joy in things. I can still be happy. Um, and I've got some pictures up here, which
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty much encapsulate a moment of joy I had. So these are some stickers out and about in Oxford, in the
Nice.
UK. Yeah. I was lucky enough to go around Oxford with my friend because I asked them what their moment of queer joy is, and it was these stickers. And these are really wonderful stickers. These are just two of them. They're the most kick-ass ones I found. But there are tons. And it's all about trans joy specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So as that little picture on the left says, that little anime guy, trans joy is real. And I think having that about when I walked past it, it just flooded my heart with happiness seeing it.
Mm.
It made me really happy. I was like, ah, especially because it's like a little anime guy as well. I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then I really like the be gay do crime because fuck yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah.
gay do crime, guys. um, and yeah, those seeing those kind of brought me some joy because it was like I don't know. I'm like a little dog. If I see another queer person out and about, my tail wags, and I'm like, oh
Yes,
my god, hi, hi, hi. And
yes. And it's the
that's the
mirror thing too,
right,
right? Seeing them
right,
means you're being seen as well, right?
exactly, exactly. It's that knowing look between like queer people of like, yeah, I know that you're one of us kind of thing, right?
That's
It's
right.
that, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm seen, I'm recognized, but then also I can see someone else and recognize like we have this community together, which is really incredible. So yeah, seeing those stickers about made me think, okay, Oxford is potentially a safe place, because there are all these like beautiful stickers about celebrating
And your
queerness, and I was
community
like,
is
hey,
somewhere here. It's somewhere
yeah,
here. It's not invisible. It's not relegated to
mm-hmm,
hidden spaces. These stickers are no, we're here, we're visible, and we're taking space in the public domain. And that's incredibly powerful.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's actually queering spaces in a way, if you think about it.
Yes.
Um, yeah, because it's transforming this space that may not necessarily be necessarily made for us. I'm going, no, this is mine. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to make it for us. And we are here and we are going to take up some space. And it's a little signal to other like queer people out and about that like they are loved, basically. That's how I feel. So yeah, that's my example of queer joy, and why it's important to me. And it's also important because queers, I feel like with my interactions with like queer media, joy is almost banned or restricted quite a lot. I know nowadays we have things like Heartstopper, which people are celebrating as like this showing of actual queer joy of these two boys like experiencing some love and happiness and being out. But I grew up with the L word, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. The L word.
um,
Yeah. And the next
the
generation
L
L
word.
word now.
Oh God, yes, the new one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Controversial opinion. I prefer the original, minus the transphobia. I do prefer the original because obviously the original was problematic as hell.
Yes.
But I mean, Max and Bet Porter and Alice and Dana. Oh my God, Dana.
Icons.
I
Icons.
take that any day.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Icons.
Right? Exactly.
They
But
both
even
have their
that, right?
places in the where they're at in their time period. But still,
Yes.
yes, of course.
Extremely.
Yes.
Extremely. But even the comparison of those two is a really good example of looking at queer joy, right? Because so the L word had a lot of trauma, I think. There's a lot of trauma in the L word, especially like I said at the beginning, name a queer that like on TV that hasn't died. And what happened to Dana?
Yes.
You know? So
Yes.
yeah.
Exactly.
We had that. Yeah. And that horrible You Are My Sunshine song, oh, gets me every time. So, you know, she died, unfortunately, and it was a huge point in the show. There was also the trauma around Bet's father never accepting her.
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. The
Being
transphobia towards
biracial,
Max was
right?
horrendous. Oh, yeah, yeah,
And all that was groundbreaking to see and hear. Like women in those
yes,
from those lived experience and actually going through it and how they survived, how they leaned on
exactly,
their community, of their often found family.
exactly,
And I think
yes,
that mirrored
yeah,
the
and
reality of the audience, certainly for me
fully,
and my
yeah,
my gender. I mean not gender, Gen X, Gen Xer. But definitely
Gen
for
X,
us,
so
that came out and it's oh my god, and so many of us were living those storylines. Sadly,
yeah,
and some of the more
oh,
traumatic ones.
yeah. So it was super powerful, and I think it still is powerful, even though it's you know we've got the new generation of the L word. I still find the old one quite powerful in the way that it talks about things, and you think, oh my god, that's still so relevant now. Like the she bar and things like that
Mm-hmm.
happened, like the gay bars and fighting and stuff, and then and then you think now, and I'm like, I can't name any gay bars that I know in like near me, like that are like lesbian focused or like sapphic focused. I can't,
Same here.
because they're just gone,
Same
and
here.
it's
Because
like
you know
okay.
it's a different time and age though. Because back then you didn't have the online media to go dating and everything. You had to go out to the
Yes.
bars. So women had to create those spaces. So in Calgary we had 318s, which was a mixed bar, but women were welcome. There's some gay bars that did not welcome women.
Mm,
38, yeah, 318s, Money Pennies, and Rooks. And Rooks and
mm,
Money Pennies had female owners at some point here and there, at least in Calgary. But you had to go out because there was no, you didn't have a cell phone, you couldn't go online, the internet wasn't quite there yet. And if you wanted to meet anybody or get laid, you had to get off your ass and get down to the Leslie bar or go to the poetry readings. Oh my gosh.
mm.
Or go to the
So true.
lesbian, sort of the bookstores that kind of let bohemian type that would let gay people in and hang out, or
Mm.
go to weird house parties, or we used to call them women dances at community centers. We call them the space out dance, the women's space dance.
Space.
Women's space.
Ah.
That's what it's called. So we call it the space out dance. But then it was like once every 3 months was your chance to go and find other lesbians in your community. And then it would be our gay pride then was not sanctioned by municipal governments. It was a very scary time to walk in gay pride. So yeah,
Mm,
but again, I think at the same time we had to carve out places where we can meet and be a community together. I think with the
yes,
online space, yes, it's accessible, all the online resources, but also I think your generation, we still need face-to-face contact, and it's so hard to
possibly,
find places, cafes, bars,
definitely,
restaurants that have that queer focus. So you're finding
yeah,
that too where you live, because I'm surprised.
yeah. So where I go to uni in London, and we're very lucky to have some gay bars or queer bars.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them, the one that I like, I go to drag bars more than anything else. I find drag kings and go to those places because I find that they're more sapphic slash non-binary focused, and it's
Mm-hmm.
more my kind of scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I used to live in Brighton, and that is the bars that I know of were mainly gay men focused,
Yes,
mainly. There was, yeah.
and
So there's
yeah,
this,
they still have the money,
yeah,
right? The men have the money, and also there's a culture about gay men's, subculture of bar culture that they have
yes,
the ability to support it. Where lesbians have always not quite supported that kind of scene, unless you're in a
no,
bigger urban
no,
center for sure.
yeah. And a lot of the lesbian spaces or like sapphic or like non-binary spaces that I know tend to be theaters
Mm,
and cafes
yeah,
that have put on drag shows, you know?
yeah,
They're a bit all over the place, kind of. You need to know people in the area and know your community to find those spaces, that kind of scene, if you like,
yeah.
kind of like not advertised. Yeah. So I think it's interesting that they talk about it in the L word. And like you said, the L word and all these spaces are ways of like having something that's ours, and like having these little sparks, moments of like joy in having a bar that you can go to or a cafe that you can go to that you know is queer, like the Planet in the L word,
Yeah, yeah,
that you know is
yeah.
like safe, right?
It's our place, and here I am normal. Here I am not
Yes,
the other. Here I am the majority. And I think
exactly.
for most queer orientated people, especially I will point it at my work, right? I'm the only queer person there. Every place I've worked in government has been I'm the only queer person in the whole department. And
Right.
so you work with heterosexual people, cis, no, cis people, whatever. And then
Mm.
here I come. Woohoo! Let me spank my hair. Let me spank my hair. I'm queer. I'm here. Oh, give me a paycheck. But like you said, right, finding those spaces where I'm not the only weirdo, and you start to feel like that,
Mm.
right? Being only one, being the other is
Yes,
so alienating, and there's a price to pay
exactly.
for that. So finding the spaces
Hmm.
that you're talking about and being with others that we see ourselves, we recognize ourselves, and we can, and they're our friends, and you give love back and forth, and you learn a lot more self-love when you have queer friends, that you can have that love energy going back and forth. But finding those spaces to do that, incredibly hard.
Yes. Oh, fully. Absolutely. It is so bound to community. It's so bound to knowing that there's like more people like you and that you are loved by other people and that you can love them and that you support each other and that you're with each other through thick and thin, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty much what I took from the L word mostly. When they
Mm.
weren't infighting or trying to kill Jenny, um, you
Jenny, what happened
know,
with Jenny? Went off.
right?
Wow. I
Who
don't
did
even.
it? They were
Yeah.
gonna make it Alice. They were gonna make it
Oh,
Alice,
thank God they
and I
didn't make
can't.
it Alice. God, I
Right?
love Alice. Alice is the best.
Yeah. She would never. She would never.
No.
So
Yeah.
I think Jenny did it to herself. Um,
Jenny had mental health problems,
um,
that's for sure.
yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like you said, there's when they're not trying to kill Jenny, they're supporting each other, and it's a show that existed. I suppose was it after Queer as Folk? Just after Queer as
I
Folk?
think it was after Queer as Folk.
Um.
Queer as
Yeah.
Folk was groundbreaking. The UK
Yes.
show, especially, more so. Well, an American show too, with different groundbreaking in different ways. But the UK one is the one that I knew, and it
Me too.
blew the doors off of queer representation on in film and
Fully.
television. Blew it.
Fully. Which is why I'm drawn to media when it comes to Queer Joy, right? Because that TV show just happened, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my god, a queer person on TV. Oh my god. oh my god, like,
And they're
oh
fucking.
my god, like,
And they're fucking.
yes,
And
yes,
someone's getting
right?
it up the butt, and no wonder he became a Sons of Anarchy later on. What the heck was that character's name that became Charlie in Sons of Anarchy? I can't remember his name,
Oh,
but it was interesting. It was wild to see gay men in all of their glory and not
yes,
unapologetic and just being
no,
there and being them, and the level of self acceptance that came with that was just fantastic. No, it
exactly.
was phenomenal, and it
Yeah.
opened the door to, oh my God, here's a market. It was successfully financially, and
Mm.
opening the door for the L word. Without it, the L word wouldn't
Yes.
have come out at all.
Oh, fully, massively, and it still has a legacy now, and so does the L word now. Has this massive legacy of I can finally see like unabashed queer people on TV, like saying the words like I am gay or I am bi or like I am trans or something, and it's like, and they weren't the butt of the joke necessarily in every case, which was amazing.
And they
Um,
were successful in
because
life, and they were professors and
yes,
lawyers and owned businesses and had children and were married, right? And
exactly,
you know,
yeah,
like, and strong, right? And yeah, and taking the space, claiming the space. It really gave at least my generation a kind of a template for how to do that. Even though it's a fictionalized
mm,
television show, it showed us how to have that conversation. If you're a university professor and you're having problems with the chancellor, how to have that conversation, how to say, no, this is my space and this is what I'm claiming. And to do those
yes,
tough fights. It was really, it was informative in a way that I think lesbian activism hadn't really been before.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think that that's why media is so important. That's why I'm so focused on media, is because of how important representation is and what it can do for people. And I think the L word encapsulated a lot of queer joy,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of, like you said, it was a lot of claiming spaces and reminding us that we are capable of these things, that we are capable of being professors and being successful, and we're not the butt of the joke all the time, and we can have families and people that love us and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I think are incredible things. And it obviously it wasn't devout from trauma. Obviously, it like it didn't, completely not have trauma, but some is necessary, like you said, um,
What's drama, right? You
because
have to
it's
have
trying to
conflict for every drama.
exactly. And then what I think is really powerful is you talk about the L word and stuff and what good it's done, and then you look at maybe some other forms of representation. And I know the one that sticks out to me the most is Silence of the Lambs at the moment, because I'm looking into horror a lot and how horrendous that was for is Buffalo Bill trans, potentially. I think in the second film they made another film and it was confirmed that they might be,
Yeah.
um and that is how media has been used wrongly,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, to bind the word queer or anyone in that umbrella, um to trauma and to monsters, right?
And deviancy
And exactly, yes, that, um
and criminality
and yes, and then saying that this person is doomed basically and will never experience love and will never experience joy,
because they're by nature
because
a
they're this.
predator, right?
Yes,
All these
exactly,
negative things.
exactly, and that's why I think that, like, having joy as a counter to that is so important, because just being inundated with this media that tells you that you're gonna die. Like, I grew up with the 100. I don't know.
Yes.
Have you seen the 100?
Yes, I watched it
It's
with my kid until
yeah.
she ditched me about it. But yeah, they killed off the best character.
Yes,
I
yes,
stopped
right,
watching it after they did
Lexa.
that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not too bad.
but when did they kill her off? Right, this started the whole bury your gays trope that people know. They started noticing it, right? Because
Yes.
obviously it happened way before then. But as soon as that happened, people noticed, and it happened. I think, and the episode after, or the same episode as those two like consummating their relationship, and also the episode where we realize she is actually queer,
Yes.
like where it's explicitly stated, and then she's immediately killed off, and it
And
was like a punishment
yes.
almost. And it's like, it was like, oh my god. So little gay me watching it was like, oh my god, a queer person, oh my god, I'm gonna watch this over and over again. And I did,
Yeah.
rewinding it over and over again. And then when she got killed, I was like, oh, that's right, I'm never gonna experience joy, right?
Yes.
People like me
Or
get
if you
killed
do, it
off.
will be short lived and you will pay the price with your life. And then
Yes,
I think we got that
exactly,
from
pay the
Buffy and the
price.
Vampire with Willow and her partner. I
Oh
can't. What
yeah.
was her partner's name
Oh,
again?
Tara and
Tara.
Willow.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why did
yeah,
they kill her off?
exactly.
Why?
I know. See,
They were so gentle.
Very
I mean, they
nice.
lasted a little bit longer, but in the end, you'll never have happiness as a
Mm,
couple. And if you love it, well,
exactly.
you better enjoy
Exactly.
it because one of you is gonna get.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's why, like,
it's the
that's
well of
why I think,
sorrow
like,
all over again. It's that
yes.
stupid trope
Yeah.
that keeps reaffirming, and that's why I'm so interested in what you're saying about media because queer content is important. I mean, especially with our digital age, all we do is consume content. So, what the power
Yes.
of the content we're consuming, it really does program to a certain extent and socialize us, especially during COVID, where we weren't getting actual interaction with other people,
Fully.
socialization. So, your content that you're consuming is telling you how to be, and it's just like when kids watch
Mm.
pornography on their phones, they think that's sex and that's how you're supposed to have romantic or
Yeah.
physical sexual relationships. And that's pornography. That is not how a real sexual relationship usually goes. Not if you're in a healthy one, God. You know what I mean? So that's just it, right?
Dear
If
God, yeah.
yeah, and I have a
It's
21
quite
year old
trauma.
daughter, right? And where is she getting her messages or learning how to be a young woman? It's
Mm,
not really from us, especially for her being a young straight woman with two lesbian moms. She's learning it from
right.
the media content. So that's why I think what your work's doing
Yes.
is incredibly interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly why I'm doing it, is because it comes from, if I'm being honest, it comes from growing up. I'm the only queer in my family that I know of, and like a lot of people. And you grow up around um, media that tells you, like Tara and Buffy, like Lexa and Clark, that like you're gonna not experience joy, right? That you don't deserve it. Um, and you know that you're gonna have horrible things happen to you, and it creates this thing in your head that you feel like you don't deserve any love or happiness, and it's a horrible thing to grow up with. So that's why I'm looking into things like queer joy and queer joy in media, because I think it's a nice counter to that. And when I saw the L word particularly, it gave me a huge burst of joy.
Yeah.
uh,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
and
Yeah,
a
I just
sudden
had a
realizing,
little bit of a technical difficulty. Sorry,
oh,
just had a friend. Sorry. Um, comforting graffiti. Can you just pop out with supposed to be a private panel? Sorry. Yes. Sorry. Yes. I thought
how,
I had made the
what a queer
channel
thing
private,
to
so
do
you
to
just pop
invade our
out.
space
Sorry
was
about that.
amazing.
Sorry about that interruption.
Hey,
That's my fault. I thought I had it. I had it locked. Really sorry
hey,
about
we're
that.
talking about queer people claiming spaces, right?
Yeah, and then
That's a
I'm
perfect
kicked out
example.
our friend. So sorry about that.
No
Sorry.
worries. Love that.
Well, let's get more into your
It's
work.
all
We
right.
kind of went on this. Let's get into
Yeah.
your work, and especially with tabletop RPGs, role playing
Yes.
games.
Yeah. So that's all why queer joy is important. Why I think it is anyway.
Hmm.
I hope I've convinced everyone.
You
So
convinced
where do
me.
games come
I'm
in?
convinced.
Well, you convinced? Good. I've done my job.
Yes.
Well, I was gonna ask that question, but I think we've answered that when we spoke about the L word. But for anyone watching, if you can give yourself about 2 minutes to write down and think about this question, or maybe think about it for the rest of the day, I encourage you to, because it would be nice for the whole point in this talk is to inspire people to think about their queer joy, if I'm honest. So, for anyone who wants to do it, what does your queer joy look like for you? And I'm going to leave that question for people, but we're going to jump into some games now.
Right on.
So,
Oh,
I think you can
cool.
guess what game I'm going to go for.
Parents Club. And we just kicked out our keeper. So our friend that popped in was our keeper for our Call of Cthulhu
Yes, it was.
game, and we're probably going to get our characters killed next time we play with them.
Oh, fully.
Yep. So this is the
Fully.
Parents Club in Boston that we were role playing in just the other week. Love it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, because that stood out as a huge moment for me. So, okay. So, where do games come in?
Hmm.
So, there's this researcher called Bo Ruberg. They're very cool. I implore everyone to Google them. Bo Ruberg. And they've made a point that queer players tend to play not to win, but to feel and to hurt and to fail and to do things wrong and just to experience. And I agree with that fully.
Yeah.
And I think that in some tabletop games, I think queer players play, and how we just interact with each other and connect with each other, we just find joy in that. And I think games are an amazing place to harbour that connection and that joy. So when we were playing Cthulhu, uh, I noticed some little bits that gave me some joy, and kind of showed this kind of joy's resistance and this kind of idea of claiming spaces. It's funny how you said it earlier because it's a huge theme.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna give you a little intro as to we're gonna enter the world of Cthulhu if you come on this journey with me.
You know I'm in. I just
So
ran Pulp Cthulhu this morning. You know I'm in.
ah
Take me on a journey.
yes, okay. So Saturday night about 8 p.m. You're sitting in your dark study, wrapped deep like a little burrito in your thick blanket, with only the light of your laptop to see. Its bright screen beaming into the room. Clicking on a Discord voice call, you're all of a sudden met by a sea of cheerful voices welcoming you into the world of play and games. You make sure to turn your microphone on. Hey, you chirp. And just like that, you're away into the mysterious world of Call of Cthulhu. So we're in Cthulhu now. Call of Cthulhu, as I'm sure most of you know probably, is a tabletop role-playing horror game inspired by the wondrously terrifying cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft. And as the game's handbook itself says, Call of Cthulhu is a game full of secrets, mysteries, and horror. And playing the role of some investigators in the 20s, now that's a key point, players will travel to strange and dangerous places, uncover foul plots, and stand against the terrors of the night. We will encounter sanity-blasting entities, monsters, and insane cultists. Within strange and forgotten tomes of lore, you will find secrets that man was not meant to know. And you and your companions may well decide the fate of the world. Now, the session that we played recently was in 1920s Boston, in the Paris Club, right?
Yes, the Paris Club.
Yeah.
Filled with cross-dressers galore.
Yes. So it's 1920s Boston, you know, like the era where being queer was illegal in the US and the UK. Yep. And women were only just allowed to wear trousers. And as our keeper even said, the sub-theme of this game is the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of cults. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like the safest place for a bunch of queer people. So why the fuck were we there?
Yes.
So as you can imagine, I'm a bit skeptical. I mean, if I'm honest, I played Borderlands, specifically, if anyone knows, the pre-sequel, where, I'm not joking, every character that you meet comes up to you and is basically like, hey, I'm gay. Like 90% of them. Okay, go Google Janie Springs. She's the most lesbian that's ever lesbian. She's amazing. And she has a crush on one of the main characters. So if you play as her, you get to flirt with her.
Woohoo! That's what we're finding in Baldur's Gate 3. You can go date anybody. Yeah. Oh, was it Karash or Kalash? Everyone's got a thing for her. She's awesome. But yeah, it's great. You can romance everybody.
Hell yeah! See, this is why I need Baldur's Gate. I'm trying desperately to save up money to get it. So you're gonna have to indulge me about Baldur's Gate a bit later, so I can absorb.
Yes.
But yeah. So here's this 1920s era place that we're in, which you wouldn't think is queer friendly, and as the description said itself, we're traveling to strange and dangerous places. And we're standing against terrors and monsters and cultists. We're gonna probably die. And our right. And our session is the bad and the ugly in terms of cults, right? So what I noticed was that you wouldn't think that this is a space for queer people, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I was to say to you, go back in a time of in history, to a time where you think is probably the most queer safe time, I'm sure you wouldn't pick the 20s necessarily.
I wouldn't pick any time. I don't think there's ever been a safe time for queer people. We've never been the majority. Exactly. We've always been a minority, and often people have always exploited us. Unless you are, yes. And if you notice my character, I intentionally picked based on a real life person who is an heiress to the Standard Oil. She had money, she had power, and that protected her. And that I always pick in Cthulhu characters with money and power that will be protected. Because the one time I didn't, I picked a gay male in Berlin, and of course our keeper killed that character off. But he was a gay young male, and he was exploited. He was having to give blowjobs in the back of clubs to earn money to feed his mom and his family because his dad died in World War I. it so it's
Mm,
like I very early learned that if you're going to play a queer character, you need some other power to give you
mm,
access to the society that normally doesn't want to give you power, that wants to see you dead or wants to just minimize you and exploit you. So, yeah, you know what? Yeah,
ah.
that's why I picked the rich, butchy lady with the tattoos. She's a real person. And if she hadn't been born into wealth and privilege in a family of high status, she would have ended up like most of our queer sisters in that era, right? Probably dead,
Yeah. Yeah.
exploited,
Yeah. Whoa.
criminalized, marginalized, all kinds of terrible
Hmm.
things. So it's
Yeah.
funny that we did pick that. I mean, that we have that era and that we have fondness for playing in that area, but also the
Right.
metaphor of Cthulhu as a metaphor for a larger society. If Cthulhu
Hmm.
is really larger, you know, patriarchal heterosexual society, and we are the little band of investigators trying to survive it. That metaphor is extremely
Mm.
powerful. Do you get it? Did I just blow your mind?
Oh shit! Yeah, you did. Shit! I never thought of it like
I
that.
know, right?
Okay, so that's quote is going straight into my essay.
Vicky's
Great,
got an
thank you very much.
anthropology degree, anthropology, history, and law. That's right. But
Oh yes.
that is what really gives and we're real people. Cthulhu
Yeah.
is excellent at playing real people characters that are real people that you can again see
Hmm.
them mirror, feel that empathy. They're not superheroes like in D&D with axes and
Yeah.
elf and I'm super smart. They're real people. You can empathize. You know
Hmm.
how a real person feels when they get like your knee blows or your parents are
Hmm.
alcoholics and you're traumatized by that. And it deals with sanity and trauma and how you deal and cope with sanity and trauma. And not many gaming systems, I mean, some of them deal with stress. Alien deals with stress, but we're not talking about like really true personal trauma. And as queer
Hmm.
people, especially if you're the only one in your family, and if you're in a religious
Yeah.
family, or and even if you're not, just the larger culture, there's a trauma again. Come back to my heroes, bell hooks, and come back to that
Oh yeah.
marginalization and being the other, and feeling like you don't have a place, you shouldn't exist, you don't belong. And yet, I think that's why. And I'm sorry to go off the rails, and I'll shut up in a second.
Oh, keep going. Keep going.
That's why most people, at least in my generation, it was so hard to come out because we didn't have those Romas, except Martina Navratilova,
Oh yeah.
lesbian tennis
Yep.
star.
Tennis, right?
Yay! How many role models did we actually have? We didn't. And so
Mm.
back then, when you went through the process of coming out, there was this thing in the community that said, your first year of coming out will be the year of bliss and joy that you will never know again. So appreciate it. And when I came out after 21 years of being in the closet, it was
Mm.
true. That was the best year of my life because A, you accepted yourself. You found other queer
Mm.
people. You found your found family that understood the feelings of rejection if your birth family didn't support you, right? All those things. But just the joy of not just finding yourself, but taking yourself out of the closet and into this world where you could be fully you, right? And that's why I
Yeah.
see the analogy. Again, we have a band of merry investigators in Call of Cthulhu, and we are going to use our resources to find a missing woman. And as women
Mm.
playing, right? So I'll shut up
Yeah.
there and I'll let you continue on.
No,
But
that was
you get
perfect
it,
because
right?
guess what the next side is?
Oh, go
Guess what the next side is?
down with the
That's
patriarchy.
right. Can you guess which one's yours?
Oh well, there's mine. Mine with the chapeau, the fancy hat,
Sugar Joe.
there you go,
Woo!
Sugar Joe. Yes,
Yes.
yes, that's
There's a
fantastic.
little
You got
read
all
on
the
the left.
tokens up there. I love it. And we have our token
Oh yeah.
male player.
Oh yeah. We've got a token sis straight. Don't worry.
Yeah, which I also
Got
think
one.
it's
Which
interesting when lesbians play cis straight
yeah.
people and the other gender, right? I used to play male characters
Yeah.
in video games on World of Warcraft just to
Mm.
avoid being harassed, and then it just became a
Oh my god. So
hassle.
okay.
Go,
My
go,
mind is blown.
go!
There's so many things. Okay, right. First of all, same. I used to play male characters all the time, and this is what I was going to talk about. Is this idea of creating characters, right? Because for the same reason, I play male characters all the time with because of internalized misogyny. Woohoo!
Yes,
But you know. But also, if you play a male character, there is a chance that the male character will get to flirt with all the female characters, and that is the
Yes.
only way
And you
that
might
you
get
can
laid.
flirt with the... Exactly.
You might get laid and
Exactly.
have a chance to have a loving, romantic, sexual relationship where you don't have to
Hmm.
die. You could actually have kids and maybe live to a ripe old age. Hell yeah.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. And also, like you said, it's if you play a male character, you might not get harassed as much.
Yeah.
Because my point about Cthulhu and our sessions was, for once in my life, it was nice to enter a game as like a kind of female, femme, non-binary person, like presenting person, to enter a game and not have to answer, you're a girl playing a game, you know,
Yeah, and then
not have to.
they fuck up your pronouns all the time because you got a female
Aha.
voice, and instead you're playing a he him, and they absolutely refuse to accept you as a he him or your character, yeah, like your character as
Yes.
he him. So many times when you're the only woman in a gaming group, not just queer
Hmm.
woman, just a woman in general, that happens.
Oh yeah.
And then they talk
Yeah.
down to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Oh.
They talk down to you like here, just here. I'll tell you what to roll, what dice to roll, because you can't possibly know math. In my case, I don't. But fair enough. But yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Everything you said, I've
Yeah.
been there, my friend. I have
Really.
experienced that. I validate you.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel very validated. Because that's what I found so interesting about, right, the group Queer Questing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I picked, like, that's why I was kind of like, hey, I want to play with you guys. Because I was like, oh my God, queer people that play like tabletop games, because I've always wanted to play them. But I've always been around cis straight male
Yes.
friends that play them.
Yeah.
And I don't potentially want to play in that group. Thank you very much. I don't want to be told, oh, you're just going to play like an elf because the elves are really feminine. And then I was like, no! I'm playing like a bard because I want to flirt with everyone. God damn it, let me do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Or I play like a drunken dwarf with because I want to validate my chin hair as I get older, and I want to be able to fart and make it funny. Like
Love that.
but but you kind of get into but it's also depending on where you are in the queer spectrum and your sexual identity, your
Mm.
gender identity. It changes, right? And that's where that everyone everyone talks about how they experience playing an opposite gender in role playing games, and it got them thinking, I like being this gender more than I like being the gender in my real
Yes.
life. And it can lead many people on a journey of self discovery, right? And I know a game runner who was a he him, and through his involvement in the hobby has become a they them. And
Hey.
it was through
See,
the
it's self-discovery.
absolutely, and that's why role playing is so fantastic because you can have, and again, I think people's superpower really as humanity is the empathy, and to be able to,
Mm.
as much as possible, in a very real way, feel or, and this is why reading books and fiction is so important because that's where you learn empathy. You see a character and you're reading
Yes.
a book and you feel their pain, their sorrow, their joys, their high, their
Hmm.
lows, their relief, and role playing is just like that, and you can put more of yourself into it. But I find, and I'll shut up, that the
Mm.
characters I play
Mm.
often teach me something I never experienced in my own real life.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Okay.
yes, go.
All of that. Okay. So it's funny that you say all of that because that is literally what my case is with tabletop games over, well, games in general,
Mm-hmm.
but then more tabletop role-playing games than anything else, because you're given this person to just inhabit and become, and you have to think and feel like them, and you have to consider how they feel, what they do, what it feels like when they get swallowed by a snake, um
Sorry,
you know.
sorry, David.
And give the snake a horrible acid reflux, yeah.
That was so much fun.
And what it's yeah, that was great. And what it's like to inhabit that life, right? And it's what it can teach you about you and how it mirrors you slightly. Because you don't necessarily have to play a character that's like you, but
Mm-hmm.
in playing that character, you find things in them that you kind of see in yourself or would like to see in yourself, or And it's a process of becoming. It's all to do with performativity. And Goffman, was a guy write a famous thing about performativity, but obviously Judith Butler talks about it a lot, so I'm going to hail Judith Butler more than anyone else, about performativity and a process of becoming and who you become in that moment when you play and when you role play, which I think is incredible. And I was going to also point to the fact that, so we've set up the space of the 1920s where it's not necessarily safe, especially Cthulhu, where you could die, and there is the threat of sanity, which, like you said earlier, I've never seen that in any other tabletop game. If anyone else has, please tell me, because I want to look into it more. And I think there's an interesting link between we're playing a horror game, when queer people have historically been linked to monsters and horror films, right? You can name a million horror
Yep.
films which are like massively queer coded. The Scream movies for a start, and Nightmare on Elm Street, straight
Oh,
away.
yeah. 100%.
Hugely queer coded.
Yeah.
You know, massively. And yet here we are picking these characters, and I just, my mind was like, I was buzzing with joy when I saw the type of characters that we picked, and how we were effectively spelunking our way through history,
Mm-hmm.
and picking out moments that resonated with us as queer moments and as queer characters and as queer people. And it's funny that your character is based on a real person, which I think is incredible. Like, you went through and found a queer person that existed,
Yes, Joe
that you kind of,
Carstairs
yeah,
really
right,
existed.
like,
Everything is ripped off from her Wikipedia, and
yes,
what an amazing life lived at that time and era. But again, it's only because of her wealth and position, right? But
yes,
but
but
that could carve out that space.
exactly, in we were time traveling when we picked our characters, because we're searching through these moments, and even picking that the Paris Club, right, where you said it
Yes.
is full of cross-dressing and queerness. It's like these little bubbles, these little utopias of queerness that did exist in history, that has otherwise been kind of not taught to us, because
Yes.
history is often, what's called history for a reason, not
Yes.
herstory, right?
And
And it's
and our keeper said a
it's
very interesting point about the Paris Club, run by the mafia. They don't care what you do or how you look as long as your money is
green is
green,
green.
right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
And I thought that was
exactly.
so interesting when they said that to us, and because that kind of did set up the tone of this. Yeah, and that's true throughout
Yeah.
history. And yeah, sorry. So keep going.
Queer people, oh, sorry, yeah, no, it is that, it's queer people have existed, and these people, I know your character is rich and that's why they got access, they did, but that's still, if you think about it on a principle level, that's still a queer person that existed, and was slightly okay, slightly, ever so slightly,
Yeah,
and wasn't, necessarily the butt of the joke, because when Jost wanders into the Paris Club, they're all the rage, right? They're like
exactly.
a celebrity. Everyone wants them. Like,
And
you know.
I also picked her because she dated Marlena Dietrich, and I have a little thing for
Oh
her.
yes, the minute you
Hell
said that, my
yeah,
mind was blown. I was like, oh
Marlena
my god! And then the
Dietrich.
sewing circle, yeah, all of it. Like,
And shout out to Marlena Dietrich for being a woman at a time well known for being a queer woman and being a strong femme queer woman,
yeah,
right?
who dressed in suits as well, who absolutely like gender bent as well, fully, like
Fully,
dressed in suits,
yeah.
which is insanity and incredible. And I just like the fact that obviously we've got a quote from Tallulah Bankhead on the screen, and that was given to us. And I think that's another famous queer woman, right?
Yes.
Another incredible woman. Also, side note, the inspiration for Cruella de Vil. I found that
Really?
out. That was fun.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah. So Cruella de Vil, by default, is technically queer. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's kind of,
And I love the
yeah. Her
quote.
laugh inspired
Well, let's
Cruella
just
de
read
Vil.
off the quote. Go ahead, read off the quote because I love that.
Okay. My father warned me about men and booze, but he never mentioned a word about women and cocaine.
Hallelujah. No truer
Love it.
words have been spoken.
Oh hell yes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I love that that was picked out. Your character was picked out. We've got the other characters on screen picked out as these very butch, very gender bending, very
Yeah,
cross
like Blue
dressing kind
Witch's
of
character,
queer.
who is the farm person, the
Mm-hmm.
butchy farm from like a working class butchy farm from the Midwest. Very interesting. Like I really, that's why, and I like that our two characters gravitated naturally and organically in the story to each other. To
Yes.
yeah, let's be butch buddies. Let's be
Yeah.
wingmen. Let's party together. We're not competition for women. We're buddies. We can be friends, and I don't care if
Yes.
you're working class and I'm upper class. We're two butch lesbians,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a brotherhood, for lack of a better word. And I like that that happened
Yeah.
organically in play. And that was you talk about joyful. That was joyful because we've the player and I have played many different games together, but this is the first time we've had two characters that naturally came together as friends in a story, right? And it was like
Yeah.
we we've played so many games together. Why hasn't this happened before? But because we didn't have the characters that the characters
Mm,
saw each other and liked each other and had that
yes.
I see you, I see you, I see myself
Yeah.
in you. Let's be friends. Forget socioeconomic class.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like the green is green rule, right? It's the they don't care about your money because green is green, and in this case, we don't care about class because we can find some solidarity with ourselves, and we've got a brotherhood, like you
yes,
said.
yeah.
And I think that's mind blowing. But it was so funny. So we all picked our characters, we all picked feminist characters, and we all linked them together, which I thought was so cool by their feminist like ideology, and that's
Suffrage
our link to them
movement
to yes, yep,
and
and that's our link to
and the male character is a little bit odd because it's the union movement, but also the
yes,
union movement and the women's movement were allies to certain degree historically,
yes,
right? To
to
certain
certain yeah,
degree, because they're
mm,
both fighting the same, opposition or oppressors to certain
yes,
degree. But that was interesting. But the women
nice,
characters definitely were all pro
oh,
choice, pro vote,
yep,
pro
yep,
female independence. One is a medical
yep,
doctor, so anomaly at the time as well.
yep.
All,
Yes, yes, we
all
got a female
avant
doctor,
garde.
which is yeah, and we got some non-binary characters as well, which I think is important to talk
Yes.
about the history of non-binary people, like because people go, oh yeah, they're only like non-binary people are only like modern, and it's like, well, fuck you, no,
Yeah.
non-binary people have existed since the dawn of time. Thank you very much. So I like taking that and placing our characters and our gender bending and stuff into the 1920s. I mean, like, no, this existed. And again, coming back to they were all based on real people, and we even went back to so I've got the violets there
Mm-hmm.
because we had a lovely discussion about the hanky code, but for Sapphic people, right?
Yeah.
Because we brought up the idea of violets because if you wore a violet at that time, it was a signal that you were like a Sapphically inclined woman.
And I don't think I even
Um,
knew that. But and again, it goes to
no,
we live in a patriarchy, and even in the queer community, male queerness and male social norms kind of because they've always had more economic power and more
mm,
social power than women
mm,
have kind of led the queer liberation, Stonewall. I mean, all those things,
oh,
even like with drag queens at Stonewall. I mean, they still had the power of more power than women to a certain extent and set the norms within the
it's
community. And you really saw with the women's movement that our community, like the women started separating and doing their
mm,
own queer women kind of movement at the same time. But it's
yeah,
funny because the queer hanky code is really from New York, a New York period with leather bars, and
yes,
and it's something that women took from the gay male community and thought, this is a great idea, let's do this for ours,
yeah,
and borrowed because
exactly,
there wasn't a whole lot of
yeah,
places we could borrow from. So that's interesting in the violets. Thank you again to our keeper, um,
yeah.
for bringing that in.
I do want to say there were some incredible, powerful women in the Stonewall movement, though, because obviously,
Oh, absolutely.
shout out to Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson of all people,
Yeah,
like
and thank you.
absolute
Yeah,
trans women have always and will always be like at the forefront of the queer movement. Absolutely, we owe a lot to trans women. So we
yes.
were lucky to have some women in power. We got some.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean
um,
to do a big hasty generalization there at all. I also
oh no, no,
wanted to
yeah,
say that we all, the community, you had to lean on each other,
yes,
right? And we
fully.
needed
But I
each other
agree with
to
you
survive.
about the yeah. But I'm with you on the hanky code because even like femme flagging. I don't know if this is just me being a nerdy queer growing up, like googling it, but apparently it's a thing. Uh,
Femme
I
flagging?
knew about the hanky code way before I knew about femme flagging. So femme flagging
I don't
apparently it's to
know.
do with nail varnish. Right,
What?
I could be wrong, but from what I read, it's something like you paint your nails a certain color, and they correspond to what the hanky code colors are. But it's supposed to signal that you're sapphic rather than potentially being like a gay man or in that space, right?
Is this why I couldn't
So
get
you
a
paint
date
your
in the
nails
20s?
certain
Because I
colors
never
to.
used nail varnish.
Damn it! You need to start wearing violets instead.
All these. What I really like is like another queer language
Mm, fully, and one
that
that
I
has
don't even
existed
know
throughout
about.
history.
Yes.
Yeah. See, so not only this is what my moment of joy was during our gameplay was when we were creating characters, we were given the option to create characters. We all went and found something that was historically accurate, that kind of were queer characters that would be historically accurate. So that kind of gives us a solid like yes, queer people existed in history, but it also was a lovely moment of like learning queer history with each other, right? Because like we learned about the violets and stuff and flagging and things like that, and we learned about the Paris Club and the feminist movement back then and who it was included. So we were like time traveling basically. Uh, Essentially, when we played, time traveling to go through some queer history and to sit with each other and
And you
have a
know what it
moment of
also
sharing.
it is? It's
Mm.
on I think on a subconscious level, it is paying honor to our queer ancestors.
That.
In a lot of
Yes.
communities, especially the Indigenous community here in Canada, they very much honor their elders in their community.
Yes.
And I find the queer community is very much divided by not gender, generation.
Yes.
And we only are now are learning from those other cultures how important it is to honor our elders. And part of this it's not just traveling, it's trying to find queer icons that came before us and to honor their
Mm-hmm.
spirits and to keep
Yes.
their memories alive through our gameplay.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
searching for our
Absolutely.
ancestors, wanting to know that our people are, it's not just me alone in my room, that there is
Mm-hmm.
a long, ever since humanity existed, we have been
Mm-hmm.
there. And there's
Yeah.
a power in acknowledging your ancestors. And you can do it whether it's with your biological family or not. But I think for us, this game, very much, there is that component of honoring, again, our queer ancestors.
Oh yeah. And finding our queer history too, right?
Yes. 100%.
Finding it because obviously it's not taught in schools. As far as I'm aware, it's still not taught in schools,
Mm.
especially not definitely not in the UK. I mean, we had Section 28, so we're fucked up as it is.
Oh,
Um,
gosh.
you know, so
Wow.
queer history not a thing. We didn't learn anything about this. I only learned about Marlene Dietrich because I googled her.
Woohoo!
You know, and went reading about some famous queer people. So I think it's us also establishing and reminding ourselves that there is a queer history and it's an opportunity to for once explore that queer history and kind of try and evoke it in the game, which I think was so cool. um
Mm.
and I think it's so funny that actually the blatantly obvious thing on screen is there is one token cis straight uh character, right? And when Jaden went, oh sorry, when our game master went round and asked us sorry about uh our characters and we explain them all. We're all very proudly explaining our characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who picks that character, their first response was sorry. Upon saying the character's orientation, they went, sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's so funny.
But at the same time,
Because
I wonder how that character's journey gonna be because that
right?
journey, being surrounded by all these strong queer women, or not necessarily
Yes.
women, but strong queer people, how that
Yes.
character is. I mean, how normal is that character? If this is a group of people that
Yeah.
you are hanging around for this purpose, and there's
Mm.
always I don't know if it's always like my co-parent was very heterosexual. And then she started hanging out
Ah.
with the feminist community and hanging around, and she
Ah.
started to think, actually, I have more in common with you than I have with my straight friends. And having a
Yeah.
whole discovery of being around queer people leading to her own queerness, right? So I wonder
Yes.
about this character. I wonder what his journey and where
Mm.
he will end up, and if he will end up as a he him, or if there will be some kind of personal discovery. I'm really curious about
Yeah.
that character, to be honest.
And I'm curious about how their interactions with the other characters are going to change, right? Um, because the Paris Club being like a queer space, they were a little what's the word? Shy.
Yeah.
Being in there.
And then
So I'm interested.
when the
Sorry.
scene moved from the queer space to the straight small town New England space, where we all
Mm.
stuck out like Scooby Doo and his little mystery machine, driving into
Yeah.
town, and they're all looking at like, who are these weird looking strangers coming into town? Is that a man or is that a woman? And then we had this whole discussion about, okay, who looks the most normal and socially acceptable
Mm.
to talk to these people to
Yes.
try and get information as we do our investigation? Who can
Yep.
pass? Who can
Yeah.
pass? And
Literally.
I think my character rolled well for passing because I was dressed in
Yes.
clothes and I had this fancy car and again, money, status, other things that would make me acceptable even if they weren't quite sure because the tone of my voice was more feminine presenting. And that moving our little band of queer investigators into a straight
Mm.
community or setting, dealing with these other backwater people in
Mm.
rural like I said, New England. That was a total weird. And we had those discussions. Well, who can do this task in this setting? Because we are now out of our element, out of an urban center, and how do we
Mm.
get through this safely? And someone grabbed the shotgun from the back of the car. Holy shit! Because
Yeah.
it ain't going to end well,
Yeah.
right? So
Fully. Fully. Yeah, it's moving our characters away from their safe space where, like you said earlier, where it's like you know that you're the normal in that space, and then putting them into a space where they're not the normal. Which again, I think that's so incredible that like so we choose to play a game and for I love D&D, but D&D, like you said earlier, their characters are superheroes, right?
yeah.
You can do what you want. You can be a superhero. You can make a utopia if you want to make a utopia. I once played a game where we ended the session with a group hug. So like you can make utopia if you want to, and you can make it all sunshine and rainbows if you want to.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Cthulhu is so hard to make it sunshine and rainbows. Yet you guys have picked that, and I've joined you on this journey into this world that isn't sunshine and rainbows, and we are going to be thrown into places where, like that New England town, right? That
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh shit, what do we do? But then it's the fact that like knowing that like that's scary, but we're in it together, and it's fine, and we're gonna do it, we're gonna get through it.
And we're gonna
I think
laugh.
that's really
We're gonna laugh,
yeah,
and
and
we're
it's
gonna
so
have inside jokes, and the
yeah,
bonding between the players through this experience, through our characters, we are
yes,
actually building real life friendships, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
fully. Fully because of the solidarity. It's about community. This is what queer joy for me comes from. It comes from community and other queer people and experiencing that connection with other queer people and that kind of solidarity and knowing that you've got these people with you on this journey. It's not just you. Like it doesn't even matter if you don't know like every queer person that ever existed. Like you know that there are more than you than you
Yeah.
out there. You know. Oh yeah, we're banding together as a group and we didn't split off and we kind of went all right, who among us can spearhead this safely, and who should keep watch and stand by the car just in case we need it, which I think is incredible. Which actually, so here's one I'm going to throw in some theory.
Okay. Right
I'm
on.
going to Jose Munoz. Jose Munoz wrote a book called Cruising Utopia, which is I will absolutely give Jose the props.
Give
This
me all of
is
these,
what has
and I'll make
inspired
sure I
it.
put them in our video description so people can
Awesome,
reference them and look them up in the
perfect.
description below when this gets put out on YouTube's. We'll put it on YouTube's.
Yes,
Yep.
hell
Keep
yeah,
going.
hell yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, fully. Yeah, good. Right, that gives me a good chance to Google him again. Um, but he wrote Cruising Utopia, and part of that is this idea of creating utopic spaces and having like how hope can be a mechanism for us in troubled times where things are difficult and where we don't feel safe and the world isn't made for us, yet we have hope and we're going to do this and we're going to band together and we're going to queer what we can while we can here and now with the hope of a future that is going to be utopia for us, you know. We kind of don't feel like bogged down by like the space that you're in and don't be like, oh, this isn't my space. Be like, no, fuck that. What's something really small and queer that I can do to this space right now, to kind of make it utopic and make it joyful and make
and
it for us,
and that's why
and to queer
representation
it.
matters, right? And that's why those
Yes,
stickers in Oxford matter.
yes,
It's
yeah,
representation.
that's doing it.
It's seeing it's
Yes,
like I'm
and it's
queer, I'm
fully
here, and I am not going the fuck away, right?
hell yeah, and
Uh,
it's fully enacting that
yeah.
cruising utopia mentality of like queerness is gonna be, it has been, and
And
it always will be, and we're gonna pave our future for ourselves and tell ourselves that we will have a future. We do have a future, and there is hope. And we're
And
going to use that to kind of as a mechanism to push us forward and do whatever we can in the everyday, which I think is incredible.
I think also that's part of the legacy of AIDS and ACT UP
Yes.
and all the
Yeah.
activism that had to happen with AIDS. And AIDS, I lived through it. I lost some friends through AIDS, but I also lived through ACT UP
Mm.
and all the things that went with ACT UP and supporting ACT UP, even though we were in Canada, right? And that, again, we're queer
Mm.
and we're here and we're not going away. There's that legacy of that power that came from that tragedy that the queer
Mm.
community has never forgotten. And
Mm.
and if we're paying honor to our ancestors, to remember that it can be joyful to fight for
Yes.
your space with one
Yeah.
another and to be there, and again, just taking up space, owning
Yeah.
space on whatever level. I 100%.
Yeah. Fully. And doing it in the here and now, and knowing that every little step that you make now is going to make your future better, but also like any other queer person in the future's better, right? Because we kind of exist on this weird timeline. I feel like Halberstam, there's a guy called Jack Halberstam. He's a really cool dude. He
Mm-hmm.
wrote about drag kings a lot as well, actually.
Mm-hmm.
uh, he spoke about queer time being this kind of like, it's not linear. We don't have goalposts like the heteronormative time does, right? It's not the same goalposts, therefore we can do whatever the fuck we want with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes a kind of loop. We exist on a completely different time. And it becomes like this nice loop. And I think part of that is, when I exist, I know that every movement I make is going to make the world a better place for a queer in like 20 years time. And that's how I exist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Also, while knowing that the people that came before me have made this space for me to exist, and I respect them, and I want to carry on their legacy and do the same thing. And that's queer time for me, is seeing the history and the future and the present all as one happening at the same time, if that makes sense. That, which I feel like is what the game is that we were playing, right? It's
Oh
pretty much
yeah, very
that.
symbolic of it. Absolutely, it does all of those things, right?
Yeah.
We stand on the shoulders of giants that paved the way before
Mm.
us, that continued to survive before us, that moved even things such as like even the study of psychology that moved us out of the deviance list into no, it's off
Yes.
of it, it's normal, blah blah blah, all that
Yeah.
kind of. We stand on the shoulders of giants, of poets, artists, academics, and just ordinary
Mm.
people living their lives and just
Yep.
succeeding. And I just lost my queer aunt last month,
Oh,
and she
I'm so
raised.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, what she was married, she had two sons, and they are the most supportive straight men of queer, like in families. Being that queer
Mm.
person in your family paves the road for her niece who would be queer. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, my aunt Franny is queer. Well, look at my cousin so and so can be queer too. And even on those
Yeah.
little micro levels of existence that we have with our own family, creating queer space in our own biological family is so
Yeah.
important for the next generation, right?
Fully.
And
Yeah,
that's and
fully.
yeah,
And
go ahead.
it's like you said, it's so paying respects to queers that came before us at the same time. It's thinking about that all at the same time and kind of enacting that all in the same time, and not having this linear start finish. It's like, no, I exist now, and I'm thinking all the time about the future for
Yeah,
myself, but also for other queer people, whilst always also thinking about the past for us and remembering that and keeping that in our peripheral vision so that we're aware of it and we're always respectful of it. And that, I think, that brings me joy, knowing that people came before me and created things like, well, and the Stonewall riots happened. Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
Knowing that that happens makes me feel like, oh, we've done it before. We can do it again.
Without the
It kind
Stonewall
of keeps hope.
riots, Canada would not have decriminalized homosexuality in the 70s. It was a
I
direct
didn't even
link
think of that.
from Pierre Trudeau, our prime minister at that point. And he was
Holy
a
shit.
fairly enlightened person, as much as a lot of people in our Canada disparage him. But he also made
Mm.
it easier for women to get free and have easier divorce laws, to claim their own
Oh,
autonomy away from abusive partners. Like, I mean, the 70s and the women's movement and so on, like that led in my country a huge change. Where, and you look at a
mm.
lot of African countries where we're still, as a community, being imprisoned, being killed, being
Yeah.
retaliated or not
Oh,
allowed to exist.
yeah.
And that's the work we
It's
have to do.
scary. Yes. So the state of the UK right now, unfortunately, I think we're the 13th safest. We used to be much higher than that, but we're only 13th safest for trans people in the world, which is abysmal. We should be much higher, but our country sucks.
Didn't
And
your prime minister
like I
just
said,
say an
I'm
anti-trans
British.
thing in his address? Didn't he
Oh
just said
yeah,
an anti-trans comment about,
yep.
what did
Rishi
he say?
Sunak. Mhm.
It should be paid by
Oh
healthcare
yeah,
or something like that. Trans operations
yeah.
or
Yeah, and they've repealed. So there was the move to ban conversion therapy for trans people, and we
Mhm.
that's what we want to ban that. And they were like, the government were like, nope, not gonna ban it. And it was like, seriously, you're not gonna ban it, even though like I can't imagine how many people signed that petition and like got that forward, and it wasn't banned. And it's just the state of the UK is horrendous. That queer rights are going left, right, and centre. At the moment, they're using trans people as scapegoats. But
yeah.
my point being that like existing in that, knowing
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
is can be soul crushing,
Yes.
but I see the joy in knowing that people before me in the UK have fought against these things and created spaces for us
Yes.
and have always done that. So that means there is nothing stopping me and people that exist now from doing that. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the government's going to throw at us. Fuck them.
Yeah.
We're going to fight it. And I know that because there is a huge history of queer people doing that.
Yeah.
That's in our blood. We know. So we're going to keep doing it. And that brings me joy, knowing my queer history and that it's going to keep happening and having that hope, as Wenoz says, right? Um, and that's why I like playing these games and finding out like living queer history in the now is so empowering because it's like, yeah, these people did it and they had some really tough times. Jesus, you know,
And I think
and they did it and they
that's the other
survived.
important message, I think, when you're talking about queer joy, and let's bring that around to like the
Mm,
individual and mental health, right? It
yeah.
is absolutely our number one mechanism for continuing on, to finding those moments,
Yes.
to looking into one another's
Yes.
eyes, seeing each other and laughing, to just, it's
Yeah.
a survival technique. It, I think, for queer people, and that's why you see so many queer people in the entertainment industry,
Mm,
because about giving joy and performance and being seen is so important. And I just think it's people like Freddie Mercury. You know, I mean, everybody knew he was
yes.
queer. He didn't have to say he was queer, and he made that space.
Cool.
And for all of us, you know, he took that space and represented what we could become. I mean, not just him, but
Hell
pretty
yeah.
much every public, any person that comes out publicly as an entertainer, as queer, you're paving the road. Elliot Page, paving the
Yes.
road,
Oh, Elliot Page,
doing
absolutely. Yeah,
100%. So
fully.
again, just that mess. I mean, I would like to hear what you say have to say about queer joy, really as a survival mechanism, because it is.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Oh, it is. So, harkening back to Audre Lorde, so
Mhm.
we talked about queer joy as resistance, as being like a fuck you, we exist and we will carry on existing and we will be joyful. But also, it is a healing tool because all of this fighting that we're doing for our rights, um, as a community, and then if you think about it individually for like Black queer rights and trans rights and those kind of battles that we are doing and have been doing, it can put quite a toll on you, right? To have that, to be like every day I have to fight for my existence. Every, you know,
Yep.
when I enter a straight space, I have to explain my
It's
existence, which is a
tiring.
horrible feeling,
Educating all the
right?
time. It's so tiring.
Yes. It's so exhausting. So then that's where queer joy comes in because that is a moment of healing, I think. To have that moment to be like, you know what, I'm going to celebrate being queer and how fucking cool it is to be queer and how fucking cool my community is and my history is and all these things that I inherit and all these things that my community have done and will continue to do and other people like me who are beautiful, amazing people. Um, and you just sit back and you use that as a moment to just exist and to think about all those good things so that you can heal yourself a bit to then carry on fighting because you're reminding yourself that like you don't just exist to survive, you exist to thrive. Like you can keep
Yes.
going and
Yeah.
have a good time, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I go to
Exactly.
drag shows a lot.
Yes. The drag
That's
community is so
why.
incredibly powerful everywhere.
Fuck yeah.
So hats off to them, honestly,
Yes, hats off
and
to
to everyone that supports them, because they are doing
yeah,
it and waving the flag, and
yeah,
just keeping that, and really, and the drag queens that are reading at public libraries to kids. They are
Yes.
so
Oh,
under
massively.
attack. And especially the trans
Yeah.
community is so under attack, but really leading the way.
Hugely.
They are getting so much
Yeah.
hate. So we, and as other parts of the queer community, need to support
Mm,
our trans, you know, fellows, and
massively.
fellows isn't the right word, but our trans brothers,
Folks.
sisters, non-gendered siblings, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say, right? We need to support them. They're under attack like no other group right now.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I'm finding joy in using that, and that's what drag king and drag queen shows are. They are pure joy, pure
Yeah.
celebration. I'm here, right? A
Yeah.
declaration.
Yeah. Fully. Fully. And I know that a lot of the drag shows I go to, one of them I went to, they said, ladies, gentlemen, and those of us that know better. And that to me signaled that this was
Oh,
like a safe space. It was
I
so great.
love it.
I loved it.
Totally
Yeah,
get
the
that.
audience roared. They're like, oh my gosh. And I was like, hell yeah. That was a space for us to be like, yeah.
And those that know
And
better,
that
I love it.
oh yeah,
That
love
is
it. It's
fantastic.
great. But
Let's
it was an amazing moment to be like, joy.
Well, let's talk a little bit, and we're going to wrap it up pretty quick. We've gone a little bit over time, but as far as your work,
Oh, sorry.
is there? I mean, are you looking for people to
Yeah.
interview? It's part of your research, part of your
Oh,
academic work. Yeah.
yes. Okay. So
How?
I'll cut to the last slide. Funnily enough,
I don't want to
I
cut
can talk
anything
for
off.
England. So.
Anything. We've got time to say anything you want. I just don't want you to. I want to
Okay.
make sure that you are able to, you know,
Thank
get what you need from the
you.
queer community that hopefully is watching this, and if they want to contact you about
Yes.
more work in queer
Well,
joy.
if anyone else has watched this and their brain's buzzing like mine is, I am actually doing a HD project all about what we've talked about queer joy and specifically queer joy in tabletop games. So if anyone wants to talk about it and has experiences with tabletop games or queer joy in games or any experiences with games, it doesn't even have to be joy focused. It can be like I had a great time playing D&D with my mates. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Please get in touch. I would love to interview you, or you can come join me and we can play some games together and you can tell me all about your games. We can write a story together if you like, because I'm working on that too. And my final project is going to be to make a tabletop game. So if
Oh.
anyone is good at making tabletop games, please get in touch. My email is there. rabuj001 at gold.ac.uk. Please get in touch. And I'd love to hear from everyone, because I've obviously given you my experience of queer joy in playing this game, but I'm not the only queer person that ever existed. Shocker. So I'd love to hear from more people from our community. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to give a shout out to, so in Montreal, there is a queer group called Soft Chaos. That's their little logo there. And they make games like the one you can see in that picture. And that game is a tabletop game, but it's based around a suitcase. And they make amazing, incredible tabletop games that celebrate queerness and queer experience. So if you give them a Google, give them a little bit of support, play a couple of their games. Trust me, you won't regret it. I had a lovely time playing that game. And also, this is a game that I'm worked on with a friend of mine. Two queers got together and made a game. Shocker. Her name's Phoenix, right? Her name's Phoenix, right? And we made this game called Cruising Dystopia because I'm not original in any way, shape, or form. And yes, I did rip that off of Jose Munoz. Um, and it is actually about reclaiming spaces. It's about reclaiming spaces in London
Mhm.
after an apocalypse and queering them, which I
Cool.
think is very on topic with, yeah, right? I will put a little toot my own horn. That is my own artwork there. As
Nice.
well. So if anyone wants to join me with some drawing as well, I'd be really happy. Because my practice is art based. So if any artists are out there, I just want to please email me. So yeah, if you want to check that game out, it is on the internet. You just type in Cruising Dystopia game and it'll pop up, or pop our little names in there. Phoenix Writes and Ray Can Do Art. And you can find it, and please give me feedback and tell me if it brings you joy, because I hope it does. Yeah,
If
please
anyone
email
wanted
me.
to learn more about queer theory, do you have any
Hmm.
sites that you can recommend as far as people want to learn more? Um,
Uh,
or if you can't think
yeah.
of any now, you can always give me a list and we'll put it in the description of
Oh,
the
yeah.
video.
I can give you some names real quick. Google Jack Halberstam.
Okay.
He's a really cool dude. Or Google Jose Munoz, or Google Sarah Ahmed, or Judith Butler. Those are the ones that scream to me. That's where I get all my queer history and queer theory from.
Good
Uh,
starting points, all of those.
yeah. Oh, and Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks as well.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, massively. Yes. So yeah, that's I'm gonna unshare my screen now.
Okay,
Boop, boom, boom, boom.
unshare. Well, or leave it. Okay, I guess we're done. Anything else you want to? Thank you so much for doing this
Just
and being part of the RPG Alliance. We do have diversity, equity, inclusion games. That's the first year we've done that. We've had about 18 people that have come out game runners that had self identified their own community in their own words, setting their own boundaries for their games. So if you go to the RPG Alliance, it's happening right now, 17th, 18th, 19th of November 2023. We still have a lot of queer content. We also have African American and neurodivergent game runners. So I think this is a good way, like as far as the future of gaming, creating these pockets or bubbles or making game runners who self identify visible and welcoming allies into it and sharing knowledge of how, when you come into their world, how to game in a respectful way and learn about one another. And again, use our superpower of empathy. And I think Queer Joy is about that. When we use our superpower of empathy, the energy and feeling and creativity that comes from it is queer joy, right? Shared storytelling. It's that power. There's a power that comes with it. I guess that's what I've felt and been motivated by. And thank you so much for just explaining it more to us and putting it in ways that we can relate to in our real gaming experience.
thank you. Well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And I'd love talking to you about your experience of queer joy and games and stuff because now it's blown my mind and I have a lot to write about. That's gonna be my new essay.
Well, I'm glad we're all playing the
yeah.
queer. So our Call of Cthulhu game that we've discussed, we do put it on the RPG Alliance YouTube every month. When we do, we record it. So if you guys want to follow along, just check our RPG Alliance YouTube channel. Look for the Queer Questing Call of Cthulhu playlist. That's where we're adding it every month. We only play once a month. But yeah, if you want to follow the saga of our heroes and heroines and all those and dealing with the Cthulhu's mythos, that's where you'll find us. And it's a good time. And it's a lot of laughs. And it's a lot of fun. And a lot of joy.
Yes, a lot of queer joy.
All right. Thanks so much, Ray. I'm going to end the stream now. And thank you so much, everybody who watched. Adios.